It's time to graduate. It's time to move on. There's no other specific words. For me, 2025 was a year that I started to really recognize a pattern. There's years that you don't have nothing planned, nothing going on. You just view it as another normal year, simple, boring. But it's been like a very strange year for me. I end up doing things that I never would have thought I was going to be doing a lot earlier. When it comes to YouTube, I was never expecting to start YouTube in 2025. 2025 has been one of these years that I started doing more things with a lot of courage. Well, basically, it would took a lot of courage, a lot of motivation for me to even do one video. I don't really like speaking to the audience. So I'm not a whine. I'm not like a typical person that likes to whine or complain. I'm just sharing you guys my experiences, my struggles. But everybody's going through a very difficult time with this economy. There's no improving. I don't think it's ever going to get any better. But for me, I was telling myself this year, specifically today, after having a conversation with my pops, a lot of gratitude with my pops. I love them to death. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's difficult. Once your parents get older, they become more naggy, more entitled. And I already did whatever I could to really make things work out. And I told my pops that I'm going to graduate. I'm going to move out probably this year, probably summertime or the fall. And I don't care anymore. I gotta really adapt to that new situation of the apartments. The apartments that I showed you guys last week on the video. That's where I'm gonna head to. The area is safer. One thing I can tell you is that area. I don't feel like I don't have a lot of fear of getting assault. Dealing with an armed robbery. I talked to one of the lady managers, so I was telling her that specific scenario or that specific concern of dealing with petty theft, burglary, armed assault. Because obviously there's a bar. The specific bar brings everybody from all the towns, from all the good and bad areas. And she said, nothing really ever happens there. There's two cops at least patrolling the area. They have security, and honestly, it's a safe area. It's not just it's an upper middle class income area, so obviously they have to have a very good reputation when it comes to safety. So I started making some progress. I scheduled an appointment so I can see the apartment, $900 and something. So that's the cheapest apartment in a good specific area. It's a studio, but honestly, I don't need nothing too much for myself. It's just me. I don't plan on getting married. I don't plan on having any children or even a wife or a girlfriend. If it ever happens, it happens. If not, but this like MGTOW monk style has helped me improve a lot. I mature a lot faster. I don't know what is it about MGTOW monk, but it really helped out. I'm saving more money. I'm becoming more wiser. It's not just about abstaining from girlfriends or bad relationships, but it teaches you discipline on I gotta grow up, I gotta become more of an adult, I gotta really start doing more for myself. Even though I'm tired or exhausted, life is not going to get any easier. It's going to become more difficult. You have to really adapt. We're basically in the survival of the fittest. Ever since we were born, that's the reality of this world. Survival of the fittest. If we don't work, we don't eat, we die. Did I got kicked out, or what's the reason behind deciding me to move on? Because obviously everybody's living with their parents because of the economy. Well, my parents are getting old. I can't say too much detail. Sometimes relationships do not work out, and they need their space. They need their own private space, to avoid any toxicity. It's time for all of us to move out. Even my brother. Me and my brother never wanted to be dependent. We actually live on our own. Yes, we live with my parents, but we share the house. We share the food. We all contribute, but it's like it's not even healthy. There's a point where you got to be on your own. For me, it was never really about money. I never believed in myself because I always been more humiliated by my parents because they always taught, you're basically boomer parents believe younger generations are worthless compared to their generation. it was never about being scared. One, I never wanted to live in Indiana. I always wanted to move out of here. I dislike this area a lot, but it's very affordable. It's very there's more things to strive for. I'm not gonna lie. If you want to have a decent car, at least an apartment, this is the best area. It is boring. There's not a lot of entertainment, but honestly, ever since I became Black Pill philosophy in the MGTOW has really helped me adapt to a new style where I'm not dependent on social groups. I'm not dependent on a female. I don't have this emotional, I'm not dependent on emotional support. I always been single for a very long time, and plus my relationships never lasted above 5 months. We always had to really break up. The longest was 5 months with a girlfriend that was a leech. Um, yeah, so there, if you guys are already black pill, if you're used to being alone, then honestly, there's not really much that we can strive for. But if we can be independent, we can really graduate, take the opportunity. This is not considered an opportunity. This is just me stepping it up. Because the first opportunity that I got to move on my own, I blew it. I should have done it. It was affordable. I had roommates. It was going to make it more easier. Yeah, the roommates were not really the type of people that I wanted to be around with. Now that I'm older, I don't see myself living with other people, even friends. I like my friends. I love love them to death. But I gotta have my own private space. I gotta have my own, individual area where I feel comfortable. I can do whatever I can please to. If I want to read a book without any interference. Sometimes when you have roommates or friends, let's face it, a lot of my friends are blue pill. They're about the video games. They're about more of like entertainment. For me, I'm just trying to learn something. I'm trying to read. I'm trying to study. I'm trying to always look up educational stuff. Like I don't have time. I don't want to spend time on unnecessary things where I'm not going to learn anything. So I just rather focus on something that's beneficial for my mental, for my knowledge. I already have everything set up. I need to have that courage to move out, to graduate, not have that fear of failing. Sometimes, boomer parents aren't the best motivators. They're more of a... Sometimes they do have that narcissistic trait of keeping the sons with them, because obviously once you move out, your boomer parents are just going to break up or split up. Because let's face it, a lot of the boomer parents are high school sweethearts. They marry, they never divorced, they never had that courage to just be separate from one from another. So a way to keep themselves not feeling alone, they want to keep their kids. Like for me, it was never like I always worked. I always had potential. It was more like I've been promised certain inheritance, certain things, but honestly that's not going to come. I'm learning to adapt to new realities. I believe what really caused my downfall from never moving out in my 20s, one, the salary that I was making when I started working wasn't enough. I needed roommates, but honestly, I always been more reserved, never really had a big social group, and the friends that I had were barely starting as well. So, and not only that, some of them were good people, but they were not stable with work. I just didn't want to face a reality of I have to take care of everything for an apartment and have people living there for free. That was one of the reasons I never moved out. Roommates were not very compatible. They were not reliant. Second of all, in 2018, we already had a small recession where I live at, because it's in an industry city, town. It's not a city; it's a small town. So there's always been that, struggle of stability with work. So I grew up in fear of like every time there's like a little stumble in the economy in my local town, it does really it becomes an obstacle more than anything, because you're already fearing that what if I lose my job, what if I lose a part of my income, then how I'm going to be able to pay for this. So it took me a decade. This is not just a movie now because I'm mad. It's more like I'm in my 30s. I already did so much for my parents. I already did everything I could to make it work, to help them. I did whatever I could to contribute for their retirement. But I gotta live on my own. This is like killing me. Being dirty with your parents is not like a very good reputation on myself. Even though I never like ever asked them for money for anything. My groceries, the bills, everything is all on out of my salary. But you gotta have your own privacy, or else you're always gonna be this like man child. Even though you don't claim to be one, but you are. We are. I was. So it took me a decade. I had a lot of patience to build up my salary where it's okay. I can make it on my own. My struggle for the beginning, but that new realities, new starts, new chapters are always difficult to begin with. If you buy a car, you have to adapt to the monthly payment. Everything you try new takes a lot of process, a lot of hard work. It's not easy, a lot of sacrifice. So moving out, I might have to really adjust to the new environment, because obviously I'm used to certain luxuries more than anything else. I just have to be very smart. I have to stop being mental. Sometimes it happens. You're comfortable, you become mentally lazy. But I have to really be grinding. And I don't have much on my prime years. Also, I don't want to have a lot of regrets when I ever perish from Earth. So I'm graduating. I already have scheduled an appointment for that apartment. I'm planning to move by the fall or by the summer. I'm saving some money. I'm saving 3 months of rent where I can give that money to make sure that I can have a fund for the apartment. That's my plan, is save save at least 5 months and pay those 5 months, and then keep saving. Because honestly, it takes planning. It takes a lot of organization. Sometimes it's very hard because you need the money. But this is why I recommend you can have a very rich mentality. You can make money, but living a minimalist lifestyle as a rich guy or as a wealthy guy is the best option. Once you're like in the MGTOW, in the black pill mindset, minimalist really helps you get you adjust to it right pretty quickly. There's not really much that I need, because in reality, I gotta face it. I'm not gonna get married. I don't think I'm gonna have any children. I'm already in my 30s. Once I hit the point where I might get married to just a girl, I'm gonna be too old. I'm already talking to a girl. This is just metaphorically. I talked to a girl. I'm probably going to be in my late 30s. She's going to be in her late 30s. I don't plan to be single for a long time, but children, it's out of the page. The economy isn't doing too great either, so I don't think bringing a child is a very good, bright idea. And honestly, I'm just ready. I'm ready to move on. I'm going to stop being so nice to certain family members that wanted me to stay with them and save money. Because honestly, projects fall. Never really trust boomer parents. A lot of the times their reality is gone. Not what I mean gone is their reality, or the point of their worldwide view. Excuse me. The world view, it's already outdated. It's not the same. This is a different economy, different times, modern times. There's us, we've been informed. So that was basically the biggest downfall on me, was believing in my boomer families that we were going to be striving for a specific project, took sacrifice, and I bend the knee to live with them. Never happened. Sometimes they end up getting divorced, or they end up having a lot of relationship difficulties, and it affects you. So I should have never really relied on them. I should have really moved out. Sometimes if you don't do things for your own, or you don't really make that important jump, you stagnate, even mentally. So I'm done with that. I learned my lesson. I wish I could have woken up a lot earlier, but I was a fool. I believe the boomers, and that's what I get for being a dumbass. So whatever happens is going to happen. I did whatever I could to. If I struggle, then I have to really figure it out. That's part of life. You have to really struggle and learn and evolve. That's my reality. So you guys stay tuned for another video. Thank you for listening. You guys have a good rest of the week, and see ya.